There it is. So we
That's
were
right. We're
talking.
drinking, so it's time.
We were drinking. We were talking. I don't have anything to rant about with work today, so that is just like, all right. I'm running behind, so I feel really bad. So let's fuck it. Let's record.
Yeah, I like
Um,
that.
this is gonna be to the point today. Come on.
That's right. That's right. We're trying a
um,
weird theme, so we're gonna go with it.
yeah, we last time we recorded, which was only last week, and this is gonna go out in
Too
two
long.
weeks. I mean, we're time traveling here.
That's right.
But last time we recorded, we talked about, hey, what should we talk about next time? What should we talk about? Because we haven't had like a topic or a theme that we've tried to go around
It's hard
forever.
to get our squirrel brains to really focus on anything too long. So I mean, I get it.
You're right.
Speaking of
Right.
get, what is up in my hair? Sorry.
Well, and
It's the problem
I'm
with Zoom
tired of
calls.
just kind of leaving things wide open. And it's just like, you
Yeah.
know what? I want to have a goal. I want to look for something specific and kind of research it. And I had all intentions until we figured out, oh, wait, we're going to do it like today. And so yeah, so the last 2 hours has been me frantically trying to find.
Awesome. One
I
sec.
got
I'm gonna
some.
close the door real quick.
Yeah. It's okay though. I got some good things. There was a couple of things that kind of came to me, and I was always looking up different stuff. So I'll say that our topic is history. We want
Very
to
broad.
yeah, exactly. It's very broad, and for some reason my mind, my reptilian brain was just focused on medical things. And it's just like everything is like all this, bloodletting and putting holes in the skulls and
Well, at least
everything.
we won't have the same thing. So we got that going for us.
Well,
Oh no, you're doing the skull thing? Damn it.
no, I'm not. I just mentioned it. So the only thing was is I was looking over it and I was just like, you know what? This is the exact example on why I don't like history, because it's all full of things that I don't want to do anymore, that I don't want to get into.
Well, see, and I am like history podcasts are like one of my favorite things to just nerd out on.
Yeah.
So like for me, it was kind of like I got to pick my favorite kid. Oh, which way do I go? Is it like true crime? Are we gonna get into like the Byzantine Empire? Like where are we going with this? So
Right.
I tried to like pick something with a little variety, so it's not all in one kind of vein. And we sort of go from like, well, because it's me and I love like true crime stuff. I only do one true crime, so I've got three little tidbits of history that are kind of interesting, weird, just kind of stick in your craw. So if you need a little something to throw out when you're at the bar to like entertain people or seem interesting.
There you go. You're thinking about other people. You're thinking about the listeners. Me,
It's very rare.
I don't give a shit.
But the first one has to do with beer, so that works.
Oh, perfect. Well, I was looking at one that they were talking about, again, medical stuff. They were talking about different ailments, and there was some kind of document that was from the Aztec Empire that had an ailment to cure death. And it was take a half of an onion and take the froth from a beer, mix it together, it'll cure death. So I was like, hey, that's something I could get into.
The beer foam, that my stepdad is like 100% German, and he swears by like a good head on your beer.
Oh yeah.
He'll pour a tap, he'll get a fork and he'll stir it up because he's like, yep, I gotta have a good head on my beer. And
you gotta let it breathe.
I guess I don't care. Beer is beer. I'm really not that picky. Like anyone that gets in beer debates, like I'm not gonna be in your corner because like a free beer is still a beer. Even a warm beer is still a beer.
Honestly, Leah, every time I hear this song, I think of you. And the refrain is, I drink cheap beer, so what? Fuck you.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I mean, I've been to Wisconsin, so that must be like the state song.
Right, exactly.
I have my usual, got my Peeber.
The PBR.
My favorite tall boy koozie, which is from a drag club in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
So much fun.
It's backwards, so it says, put a tall boy in your mouth. It's my classiest of koozies.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, like beer, I mean, alcohol alone is responsible for so many great historic events. So
Absolutely. Well, now you got me intrigued now. Let me know what is it that you're getting into with.
Okay, so this is a fun story. I really wanted to kind of start with some local history.
Okay.
And again, like you can start digging into like local history in the Great Plains. It's not good. A lot of grim stuff.
Yeah.
I actually heard about this. Shoot, I'm not even sure. I heard this story a while ago, and it happens in Worthington, Minnesota. For some
Oh.
people who don't know the area, it's about, I don't know, as the crow flies, probably like an hour due east of Sioux
Mhm.
Falls in
Yep.
Minnesota, right over the border. Nice little town. So the story I heard about was during, I actually think this predates like Prohibition. It's during the temperance movement, so it's a precursor to the Prohibition era, but not too surprisingly, in this time, which I think here, I got the page open here. Um,
Look at
it
that.
was
You're quoting your or citing your
I'm trying
quotes.
to, like, disclaimer, like, we're not a history podcast. So, like, I mean, if you want to come after me because this is not accurate, like, go
Feel
for
free.
it. We're not releasing show notes. We're not going to give you sources. Like, I'm just going to read this off of the stuff. So, this actually comes from around the 1870s.
Okay.
And the town was kind of a mishmash of people. Lots of people like looking to capitalize on all the land that was available. So you have these very, very conservative Puritan kind of people and their big families. And then you have all these men coming out here after the Civil War trying to like start their lives again. So in this mix of people, you have kind of these butting of heads of these very conservative people, a lot of Dutch reform, and these people that are just like, hey, wild, wild west, baby. We showed up to get some land. We work hard, we play hard. So in Worthington, they were going to have a very first 4th of July celebration.
Oh.
So hearing this at the hotel house, they were going to host the celebration, and there was this great big keg of beer. So there was a notable gentleman in town, Professor Humiston. I'm probably saying that wrong, but he was a temperist. He believed that alcohol was the devil, and so he showed up at the party with an axe. He drugged the keg outside and he bashed it to pieces.
Ah.
So I want to read the verbatim because there's a great little write-up from the newspaper about this.
Yeah.
So upon seeing this, the young men of the town thought it would be rather an imposition and collected together, procured the services of a band, and under the directions of a military officer, marched to the rear of the hotel, and with a wheelbarrow and shovel, took the empty keg that had been broken open and played the dead march with flag at half staff, marched to the flagpole in front of Hamiston's office where they dug a grave and gave the empty keg a burial with all the honors attending a soldier's funeral. They then, with flag at full mast and with lively air, marched back to the ice house, procured a full keg of beer, returned to the grave, resting the keg thereupon. Then a general invitation was given to all who desired to partake, which many did until the keg was emptied. Sibley Gazette, July 5th, 1872. So I just love the idea that they're just like, yeah, fuck this guy. We're going to have a party and they had this big funeral for a keg.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So I heard about this a few years ago, and the reason why it kind of came to my attention is while I was researching, there's a brewery in Worthington now called the Forbidden Barrel Brewery Company. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so I love that it's kind of come full circle, and there's an adorable picture of the husband and wife that own it wearing their lederhosen and their little like German gear. So I really want to come visit it sometime, but like just a funny little story because you think about all these goofy things that happen in history. We like to think about people in the past being stuffy and like this just seems like such a funny thing. Like you could totally see somebody now being like, yeah, well, we're going to take the party, we're going to have a funeral and in your face. So
Yep,
yeah,
and we're gonna get
kind
another
of a fun little story.
And when that keg's gone, we're gonna have a funeral for that one.
I mean, I do want to mention the very end of the article. It says the evening they reassembled, burning an effigy of the man that broke the keg. But it doesn't sound like any violence broke out. So I mean, shenanigans all around.
Right, just shenanigans. No one got hurt.
Really, just drunk people being silly, and
yeah,
I can always get behind that as long as no one gets hurt.
Absolutely, no. You gotta be good or happy about a happy drunk.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to argue this is like the origin of happy hour. But I think that the funeral, like the keg funeral, is just chef's kiss. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's amazing.
tough act to follow, but I figured it's a good lighthearted one to start things out, especially with beers in hand.
Absolutely. I'm done. I can't
That was
do
it.
anything.
All I got.
There's nothing.
Now I'm going
I'm
to talk
sitting here.
about parasites, Leah.
Right, exactly.
That is
There's my
actually like every
transition.
time I go camping with people, we're sitting around the fire, like looking for things to talk about, and just like, you guys know a lot about parasites, and then proceed to just bore everybody about my much too detailed knowledge about parasites.
Right. Yeah. As you look at the campfire and saying, that campfire probably has this many parasites in it. And
So and so used to burn their victims to death. Okay, Leah, no more crime podcasts for you.
all right.
Funny,
Well,
it's true. All right, what you got?
I will. I don't have anything.
You just get to react to all my
went.
stupid history stories.
Oh my gosh, you went above and beyond. I just
Oh, you
have
don't even know.
stupid
I was like
things.
practicing my spiel in the car, man. Like, I love this shit.
I love it. I love the dedication.
We can have our own drunk history podcast where we both just get drunk and I bore you with my history stories.
That's okay. That's okay. I can always add color to that.
Yes.
That's what I'm good at. So I was just going about and again the medical history, looking at things, medicine and things that used to been done, and thinking about, okay, what's something that I could get into that, even though it was something that was frowned upon, or it is frowned upon now, is just thinking, hey, you know what, yeah, why can't we bring that back? And mostly it was thinking about, when cocaine, meth, heroin, all that stuff was legal.
I'm glad you're going that direction. So, like, let's put tobacco smoke in people's butts. Like,
right.
That was a big thing.
I did see that one too. Yes, exactly.
Who started that? Like,
or else one of them where they so now I'm getting off on this tangent. They were talking about different medical procedures that was done in the past, and they have this guy that's holding this ball, and it's like, what is that? It's like, oh, that was a gallstone that he removed himself by sticking something into his taint, so basically the perineum,
let's get scientific here.
Yeah, exactly. And they said that was a common thing to be able to go through that way, to be able to gather what was in like gallstones and stuff like that. So yeah, but he had this huge ball, and so it's like, well, I could see that it definitely needed to come out, but that seems like a bad place. But yeah, so legalize drugs, get them back out there, give them to your kids.
Give them to everybody, every street corner, just hand out drugs.
Absolutely. They worked until they became habit forming. That was the only problem with it.
Yeah, just pump the brakes and take it easy, guys. Just like a little Coke.
Right, just a little bit of heroin. That's all you need.
All I know is like DARE programs. Like, okay, I don't want to flex, but in 5th grade, I won the Delalio Elementary School DARE essay contest.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, I definitely thought that I would be offered more drugs as an adult based on the DARE teachings. Like, everyone's going to be giving you drugs. No one's giving me drugs.
You know what's really sad?
Like, other than like an ibuprofen, but
right, exactly. Yeah, there's no open people. They're just saying, here, you want some drugs? But what's really sad? Over the years, I still remember. Did you know there was a DARE song? Do you remember the DARE song?
Oh yeah, we had to sing it at school.
Dare to keep a kid off drugs. Dare to keep a kid off dope. Dare to give a kid some help. Dare to give a kid some hope. Yeah. Exactly.
I remember like, so like when they would like, so I went to like a DOD school, so I lived on base, we had the military police come in there and talk about drugs, and I remember them bringing like this suitcase, like super creepy suitcase full of drugs, and it was like the fake drugs, so you knew what it looked like, and I just were like, what is that stuff? They're just, oh, it's not real. Like, so if it's not real drugs, like, why are you showing this to us? Like, it was just weird to think that there was a company out there that literally manufactured suitcases full of fake drugs. God, there's like a great movie in that somewhere, right? Like somebody that buys wholesale a bunch of like old like DARE drug suitcases and is trying to like sell them on the black market.
Oh my gosh. You
Don't steal that idea, listeners.
Yeah, yeah. You just came up
That's
with
B movie gold.
a new Jason Sudeikis comedy.
That's right. Call me.
Right, exactly. All right, so that's one what I was getting into.
Nice. So
It's terrible. Don't patronize me.
you know how good I am with segues.
You got the good stuff. I'm feeling. I'm just like, oh yeah, here's my next one.
So this is one I got into, and like a lot of the history stuff I get into is because of podcasts. So I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of Last Podcast on the Left,
Yep.
and they normally do like cryptids, monsters, killers, true crime. Kind of runs the gamut, but I love it because it's actually like very in depth, and they do have good show notes too. And I
Yeah.
remember a couple of years ago, like just being really fascinated because they did an episode on a story I guess I thought I knew, which is the story of Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I mean, like I've seen the movie. Everyone knows who Bonnie and Clyde is. They've got the iconic photos of like Bonnie with that gun on her hip, and both, she's got the gun holding up on the guy, and always this kind of sexy story about these like crazy young kids that were just, driving across the Great Plains, shooting things up, and didn't care, and got killed for their crazy ways.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, but like the real story is like so much crazier and darker than that. And there's just a few little like points on that story that just kind of blow my mind. So again, disclaimer, like some of this is if I remember, some of it I'm reading off Wikipedia, and other things I might just be making up. So, do your own research, kids. Whatever. I'm drinking.
You can
So
decide which one is which.
yeah, figure it out yourself. So like again, like the thing that kind of blows me away is like, yeah, they were so young. So Bonnie ran away from home and got married when she was 16.
Mm.
She didn't meet Clyde yet, but she was actually married for 3 years before she met him. And he was kind of a ne'er-do-well as well. Like their relationship ended. He went off to prison. It doesn't really say they ever got divorced or why that their relationship kind of fell apart, but they did say that she actually wore his wedding ring till the day she died. So, I mean, I guess there's something there.
Yeah.
But she
Interesting.
did meet Clyde when he was 21 and she was 19, so still like super babies, right?
Oh yeah.
They actually only met each other for about 3 months before Clyde went to prison.
Oh.
Because Clyde was the fifth of 6 or 7 like kids, and so he started petty crimes, stealing cars, larceny, like all these little crimes, and eventually caught up with him. Ended up in prison down in Texas. Had a horrible time in prison. Like he talked a lot and wrote a lot about how he was beat up, he was sexually abused, he was targeted by gangs. He actually ended up killing the person who was sexually assaulting him by bashing his skull in with a pipe. And the
Mm.
only reason why he got out of prison was because another inmate like took the rap for him. Because the other inmate's like, I'm serving a life sentence. I'm going to confess to this. You're a young kid. You got your life ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
So like, like that's not bad enough. Like the other option in prison at that time was hard labor. So Clyde was desperate not to get sentenced to hard labor. So he actually had someone cut off 2 of his toes so that he could not be eligible for hard labor. So he actually limped like noticeably the rest of his life because of that.
Oh wow.
Um, so he served a few years in prison. His mother actually is the reason he got released. She basically pleaded on his behalf and said he's a good boy. He's really young. He's made mistakes. Give him another chance. So he gets out of prison and hooks back up with Bonnie. And, if there's a lot of stories talking about like Clyde's motivation, if he wanted to be famous, if he was trying to be like a Robin Hood figure. But a lot of the stories talk about how his time in prison is really what drove him to commit crime. He wanted to exact revenge on this system that, had done these horrible things to him. Whether or not that's true, you hear conflicting reports because it also sounds like he's kind of just a cold stone sociopath. But
Just a little
I think
batshit
you want to
crazy.
find the reason sometimes behind why bad people do bad things.
Yeah.
And on the whole, they didn't really kill civilians. They did kill officers. So they ended up getting a pretty bad reputation pretty quickly. So like I said, a lot of the stuff you kind of know. We got the Barrow Gang, which is Clyde and Bonnie and their crew, and they're knocking off grocery stores, banks, kind of picking off the low-hanging fruit in most of the communities. So
Sure.
Clyde loved to drive fast. He was usually the getaway driver. So I thought an interesting fact was that he ended up crashing the car, and he ended up crashing the car so bad getting away that the battery in the car basically exploded and sprayed Bonnie with battery acid.
Oh,
The
wow.
burns were so bad that they said that her bone was visible.
Oh, God.
And of course, yeah, they're on the run. They're not going to go to the hospital or anybody. And basically, like Bonnie's leg healed in such a way that it like curled up, and she was not able to move her legs.
Oh, wow.
So this kind of happened right before they were really getting on the national profile. So you have to think about all these images of Bonnie and Clyde. Like Bonnie had to be picked up and carried out of the vehicle. Like she couldn't even go to the bathroom without somebody helping her. And they talk
Wow.
about how Clyde and the rest of the gang were like, you need to go home, Bonnie. Like, this shit's getting real. You can't walk. And she refused to leave his side. She was in it, ride or die,
Wow.
for better or worse.
Yeah.
So things get bad. Like, the whole reading this story, like, again, like the romance completely falls away because the whole time you're just like, you stupid kids, just stop. Just stop. Like,
Right.
you
Right.
could turn yourself in. And I mean, maybe Clyde knows that, like, death's probably better than going back to prison. Bonnie
Yeah.
doesn't know that, but I think that's really what drives a lot of him to just keep going forward. There's no reason to stop because, either keep going till you die or you kill yourself.
Right.
So things get from bad to worse. Um, we all know kind of how it ends. Like one of the crazy things, like right the day before they end up getting gunned down, they are staying at a hotel and they get ambushed by the police and the FBI. And they've got family with them. It's like Clyde's brother and his sister-in-law that are with them. And like under the rain of bullets in their hotel room, they end up getting out the car and driving away. In the process, like the glass gets shot out of the back of their car, and like his sister-in-law gets so much glass in her face that she's blinded.
Oh,
And his
gosh. Wow.
brother-in-law literally gets like a piece of his skull blown off. They talk about in the records how they could see his brain. Like, yikes. Again,
Yeah.
stop, turn around,
Yeah.
give up. Like, this isn't worth it. Nope,
Just please stop.
continued on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, the final run ends up being with all the law enforcement basically knowing exactly where they're going, waiting for them, and unloading just bullets after bullets on them, which, even now you just think is like, it's so crazy to think that they just got completely mowed down with all these
Mhm.
bullets.
Right.
Not that there'd
But
be any recourse, like I said, they were public enemy number one.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and they were just they were out and about. I mean, just causing chaos wherever they went. So yeah, at that time they didn't really care about due diligence or whatever. They're what they were deserved to them was what they got.
Yeah, well, and this is, like I said, everyone knows kind of how it ends. And I think what's really like interesting to me about this story is that like true crime is really popular right now. There is a
Mhm.
shitload of TV shows, movies, books, podcasts, but like this feels like a modern phenomenon, and it's totally not. Like people have always been obsessed with true crime. And like the weirdest part is like people went ape shit when Bonnie and Clyde were killed. Like people from the countryside went, they were digging bullets out of the trees. Someone stole Clyde's trigger finger in the
Oh,
morgue.
gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
like the car toured the country. Like it's crazy to think just how like again, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna totally have a coffee cup with Ted Bundy on it because I like serial killer stuff. Like
Right.
that, none of us are pulling bullets out of trees that went
Right.
through human bodies. I mean, maybe somebody out there, but like that level of fanaticism is just wild to me. And it kind of
Well,
shows just how like crazy obsessed everyone was with that story even then. So,
that there was nothing else going on at the time. I mean, there was no internet, there was no TV, there was barely radio.
and word got out fast. They said that, okay, so the town where they got murdered, the little town in Louisiana, about 2,000 people. They said within hours there was over 12,000 people there to see the car and the
Wow.
bodies. Like,
Wow.
what? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you're not going to get a video on, Snapchat, but like it's crazy. So like it's weird to think that it like even now, like as big as the names Bonnie and Clyde are because of movies and popular culture, like even then it's just wild to think that many people in Louisiana came out to see a spectacle like that. Like,
Right. Right. Exactly. That's crazy. Yeah, you can't get much more famous than that.
Yeah. I also really like that they, in the note in the Wikipedia, that during the time when everybody was there in the town, beer normally sold for 15 cents a bottle, and it jumped to 25 cents. So, I mean, I guess good on Clyde there at the end. He really helped
Yay,
out the community.
capitalism.
Yep. And as it says, the sandwiches quickly sold out quickly.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Just crazy.
Oh wow. That's crazy. That's an
Hey,
amazing story.
yeah, like, I mean, and this is like, honestly, it's just the tip of the iceberg. You could keep reading on, especially about all the stuff that happened afterwards with the car and the bodies. Like, yeah, we could spend a whole separate podcast, which is probably out there. I'm sure somebody has a Bonnie and Clyde podcast, but
I'm sure.
um, yeah,
It's
I just thought it's a really interesting rabbit hole to go down, and one that I guess again, truth is stranger than fiction. I thought I knew this story, and it's just totally not what I thought.
right, right. Well, and especially when things that are happening at that time or day and age or whatever, it's you can only go with what is published. And
Right.
sometimes what is published isn't really completely true, isn't completely honest, isn't really what happened. It's one of those things that when you have the story or you have the truth, you want to print the story because the story is going to sell more than the truth in a lot of cases. But it
Well,
sounds like this is kind of one of those cases where it's just the opposite, where the truth is held back because
yeah.
it is so fanatical.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's always interesting when you're reading anything in history to remember, like, history is written by the winners.
Mm,
So
yeah.
especially now where we're kind of getting a better sense of like looking at historical events, like this thing you can hold in your hand and look and see all the angles. I think this is like a lot of that pushback people get about American history, like teaching about the skeletons in our closet, because I know growing up, we didn't really learn a lot about the Great Plains Indians and thinking of that as massacres.
No.
I don't think I even, until I was in college and started reading a lot of the literature from like the early Puritan society, where there was all these stories about, getting attacked by Indians written by Puritans. And it's just like, well, you're in their fucking land and you also killed their people. So like, yeah, they're totally justified in coming and killing your livestock.
Absolutely.
And
They're just getting
yeah,
back at you.
yeah, I'm just like, you're not the victims in this. Like, you're the bad guys.
Right,
It's
right.
that meme all over again. Guys, are we the baddies? And I think it's something that especially like Gen Xer and younger have had to wrestle with, is because like we're this transition period where we're realizing like you have to acknowledge the dark parts of history to really understand the geopolitical climate. And older generations that have been spoon fed this whole like whitewashed American history are having a real hard time accepting like that our forefathers did, and mothers did, bad things, and not always for like the
Right.
best reasons.
Right. Well, and I think that's also where the tides have turned now, is that, especially I would assume that a part of it is the age of the internet coming in
Mm,
and having all this of information available to you now. Before it's the information that you are that about is the what is being fed to you. Now you have this ability to be able to see and experience and be able to research so much easier than even going to a library or a number of libraries to be able to find out what the truth is. But everything is right there on the internet, and when it's there, when it's historical documents, because it is right there in front of you telling you what happened, it's hard to do what our parents did and just say, oh, that must have been just hearsay, or else we don't talk about that because we don't really want to accept that that's what actually happened.
yeah.
We don't want to own up to it. And that's where, yeah, it's tough because our generation is kind of stuck in the middle of it, because you got the Gen Xers that are out there, or not Gen X, but the whatever, the boomers that are out there that are still the old way of doing it, and you got the millennials that are like, hey, we know all this information. And yeah, I would even say X and Y, are kind of stuck in the middle, where it's just like, we're learning about this now, and we're kind of agreeing. There's people are taking sides, either the sides of the boomer saying, you know what, I just want to believe with what was told to me, and then you have the other people that are kind of more like the millennials that are saying, you know what, I can go out and I can research this and I can see for myself, and I can make that assumption that, this is wrong. We need to own up to it. We need to not embrace it, but we need to accept it. Accept that shit happened, and it wasn't us, but it was still something that we could do to be able to try to make things different, so that we don't have to worry about this going forward.
Well, and I think that it brings like a really interesting question, because I think that's a lot the divide probably between older generations and younger generations, is this sense of responsibility
Oh
for
yeah.
the actions of the past. Because this is like the pushback, which is like, well, I can't control who, like where I was born, who I was born to, like, why am I responsible for my ancestors? And it's like, well, you're not responsible for your ancestors, but you're responsible for fixing the issues that your ancestors perpetuated. Like if your
Right.
ancestors owned slaves, they settled on stolen land, they exploited people. Like, yeah, you should be doing everything in your power to make sure that you're telling that story to people, and that you're making, reparations either financially or otherwise. Because, yeah, why aren't we giving land back? Why aren't we, correcting these error, those like historical crimes? I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. And
Right.
the echoes of that are like, I remember people saying like, well, I never owned slaves, so I don't understand how, I have any responsibility for that. And it's just like, well, you have generations, and again, slavery is not as far away as everyone likes to think it was.
No. Right.
Generations impacted like that. Like if your parents couldn't, your great grandparents couldn't own land and didn't have any wealth, like that has echoes through generations of people, and that's the consequences of what you're having right now. And like not acknowledging that is not healthy.
No, no. And all it does is creates even more and more of a divide, unfortunately.
Well, and I mean, like, no one ever wants to feel like they have the upper hand in life, and it's like the whole like the idea of privilege. Like everyone feels like, well, I'm not privileged. I have to do everything by hard work, and it's just like, the fuck you don't. Like,
Right, right. Yeah.
yeah, you don't.
You've
It's
got a
and
lot of
it's
things that, go in your favor just because of
yes,
who you are, how you were raised, where you were raised,
yeah,
Yeah,
and you can't,
absolutely.
again, you can't choose who your parents are. You can't decide where you're born, but you can decide what to do with that once you have it. And acknowledging that privilege and working to equalize things and raise up people who have been marginalized or harmed in our culture is huge. Like, and I think that's something that our generations feel and value, and we struggle with because older generations just don't.
Right, right. Yeah, they just think we're stupid because we're actually thinking about those types of things.
Yeah. Why are you
But
going to think about other people, you socialist?
yeah. You want to
Uh,
save the world.
and it's like the
Ugh.
most soapboxy we've gotten in a while. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah. I've been kind of on a
It's a bit in a mood.
pedestal
Yeah.
for a while, so yeah.
Live on soapboxes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Most of the time they're wrong, but
But they're mine. And that's what counts. I
all
feel
right.
that.
Well, speaking of divides, here's a good transition.
Ooh.
Terrible. Speaking of divides, one of the things that kind of historical that I'd love to see happen again and to get into is map making.
Ooh.
Yeah, you like that?
Cartography, huh?
Yeah, topography. Um,
Cartography.
Cartography, there you go. Yes, yes. So yeah, so that was something that I was thinking about it, going, that's something that is kind of a lost art. It's just been too easy to be able to do something on the computer, be
Mm-hmm.
able to map something out through Google, or even have the street cam out there to be able to map something out. And it's great that we have all this knowledge, but there are a lot of maps out there that was drawn over the years that had a lot of forgotten about information. Just thinking about even 20-30 years ago, seeing what maps looked like for countries that are in Europe, in even Africa. And this kind of comes to light with the Olympics. When you see the opening ceremony, it's just like, I've never heard of this place. It's like, oh yeah, it's this. And it's like, oh, I used to know it as something else. So to be able to see that there's all this stuff that's out there that at one point was mapped, at one point had all this historic information, Istanbul, not Constantinople. I think so is fascinating that it's out there. It's kind of a lost art, and we also have all these great very accurate drawings of where everything lies, but to be able to have something and a little artistic touch to it, I think is great.
So I know this is like not related to map making, but I think it's fascinating, the psychological aspect. So are you aware of like the different kinds of world maps that exist?
So I am aware, but I've never actually looked too much into it. I did see one recently where they were showing on how Alaska looks like, or looks at the United States. And I don't know if it was actually a true one or not, but it was literally it was a very detailed map of Alaska, and where Alaska is usually out over in the corner, it was the rest of the 48 United States that was in the corner.
Well, yeah, I just always think it's interesting because, like, okay, so like the map that of the world that most, at least Americans, are used to thinking of seeing the world is called the Mercator map.
Okay.
And it's, yeah, like if you are picturing what a world map looks like on the wall of your elementary school, like this is exactly it. And
Yeah.
it like is very distorted, like
Right,
the point
right.
where the United States looks huge and Africa looks small. And like really
Greenland
like,
is this huge place. Yeah.
yeah, like Alaska looks huge. And I think it's really fascinating when you start kind of digging into all these different map styles that actually show like the land masses proportionate. Like
Oh,
there's one
yeah.
called the Pierce Quintuple one, and it's kind of like if you did like an aerial view, like smashed down from the North Pole. I think
Okay.
it's neat because it really gives you a sense of scale, and it shows you like just how much smaller North America is than South America. It's so much smaller than Africa. Like Africa is so much huger than any of our maps get it credit for.
Right.
In Alaska, you're smaller than we think. But like I just think it's really interesting how you can look at something that you take for granted your whole life, or even like if you see maps that are tilted, so you're not looking at the Atlantic Ocean, you're looking at the Pacific Ocean,
Right.
and
Right.
seeing the Earth that way. Yeah, I just think it's the psychology of kind of like how we view the world, and even how we see how important parts of the world are, is very interesting. Just because none of us are probably going to get to space unless you become a billionaire anytime soon. Uh, so seeing, yeah, like how the world really looks like, it really shapes how you conceptualize things.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the things growing up that I always had an interest in Australia, just because it was kind of out in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah,
and seeing what the size is. I mean, it you think of it as a small, tiny island, but it's the
huge.
size of the United States. It's roughly the same size. So
I was always fascinated by Madagascar off of Africa, and then when I saw like all the weird plants and stuff they have, I'm just like, I'm sold on it.
oh yeah.
One of these days I'm going to get there. I used to have a friend when I was in college, Yumi. She worked in the kitchen with me, and she was from Madagascar. And
Oh
like
wow.
Yumi was hilarious. She was this tiny little gal, and she just had the funniest observations because, coming to America for college was her first time leaving Madagascar. And
Yeah.
like the thing that fascinated her most is apparently there's nobody who's obese in Madagascar. And
Okay.
she would see obese people and she would just turn to me and be like, what's inside of them? Like, what do you mean what's inside of them? It's like, what is all that? Like, it's fat and organs and meat. Like, what else? What are you expecting me to say? Like, she was just mind blown.
Oh wow.
I'm like,
Wow.
welcome to America. Sorry.
You'll see a lot of them.
Yeah, because there's like this woman with like this really big belly, and she's just like, that's not baby. Like, no. Don't talk to, don't ask, don't.
Yeah. Don't ask
Rule
what
number
she's
one,
due.
never ask. Never ask. Doesn't matter. I don't care if you had a baby shower. You do not ask.
Right.
But
Yeah.
hi,
Yeah.
Yumi. I'm sure you're listening to this.
Absolutely. She's gonna be on our next
She
show.
somehow reconnected with me after years. And
So I have a surprise for you.
Oh,
Yumi's
boy.
on the other line.
Yay!
Yeah, absolutely. She's calling in from Madagascar.
Yay!
Yeah.
That was actually
yeah,
like the highlight of working in the kitchen at college, was that I got to work with like all the foreign exchange students worked in the kitchen because it was the only place that they could get employed. So yeah, I worked with like the Jamaican exchange students and the Japanese exchange students. We had like an Egyptian
wow.
exchange student. Yeah, they were the best.
That's awesome.
I got to like teach them the American ways. Mostly just apparently explaining how fat people exist. So
Right, exactly.
that's America 101. It's fat people. They're everywhere.
See, when I went to school and we went to the same school, but when I went to school, the only exchange students were from Norway. It just seemed like just everyone from Norway was there. So yeah.
I also had a really good friend that was a German exchange student.
Okay.
And Yannick was great because so here in the Midwest we have Hutterites, and they are very like kind of think like the Amish, a little different than the Amish.
Kind of Amish light.
Like Amish light, yes. They definitely, wear like old bed sheets for dresses and stuff. But they all speak German. So like the best was going with Yannick to like Savers and seeing like gaggles of Hutterites sitting there talking. And Yannick was very gay, like super out there, like flamboyant, no apologies. He had no problem with it. But we'd go shopping at Savers and like the Hutterites would be like talking shit about him. So he would just go there and start talking to him in German, asking like, oh, where did you get this dress? Did you make it? Oh, it's so nice. Like these women could have just shriveled up into like a mouse hole and disappeared. They were so embarrassed. It was
Oh my gosh.
peak. Great. Yes.
Oh. All right.
All right. So my last history lesson, out of left field.
You know what? I'm gonna interrupt you.
Okay.
I'm gonna give my last one because yours is gonna be so much better than mine.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of depressing, sort of / weird, but
good. I'm looking forward to that. Because I ran out of things, and I was just I don't know what else to talk
just
about.
Deal with it.
Yeah. So I didn't know what else to talk about. So I chose something that was really lame. However, it is historical. Talking about one thing that I'm getting into is classic furniture.
Define classic furniture, like wicker.
Well, not so much
rocks?
Wicker, but anything that's made with actual wood. How about that? That's probably so one of the things that I hate about furniture nowadays, especially furniture shopping, is that everything is prefab. Well,
it's like particle board and
or I should say everything that I can afford anyway is all prefab. So
amen to that.
So I and I love IKEA for how they look and everything, but all prefab. I hate it. It doesn't last very long.
Solid wood, right?
Yeah. I have chairs that my parents gave me that they got when they were in college that still stand up, and I have no problems whatsoever. Never had any problems. They're 50 years old. This chair or two chairs that I have, yet I've bought 3 or 4 different pieces of furniture that have had to be repaired multiple times. And by repaired, what they do is they come in and they put a piece of metal on it and they just nail it in the piece of metal to try to be, give it some stability because the particle board inside snapped and they don't want to replace it. So that's how they fix it, by just adding more metal to it. What's that?
It's like braces for your furniture.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. And so it's just like, what I could really get into is getting back into having classic furniture, even bring back the retro styles of the 60s and the 50s. I think it's all great. And it held up. All of it held up. So,
this is something like, so I have a solid oak dresser. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of like you gotta like shake the drawers to get them out, but they still
Yep.
have like the dovetail like edges. Like it's a solid
We
piece
have
of
one
furniture.
too. Yeah.
Well, I remember like when I was, I don't know, probably like middle school, my dad going to like driving through these like small towns in Minnesota and hitting all these antique shops. And that's
Okay.
where we ended up finding my dresser because
Yeah.
he refused to buy, particle board or garbage from IKEA because he's
Right.
like, you know what? If it survived this long, it'll probably survive another generation or two. So yeah, same boat. I would say most of the good furniture I have, I've gotten from antique shops or hand-me-downs because it's solid wood.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't find anything that is new, which granted, a lot of times when I want to try to find new furniture, I don't want to have something that has a lot of stains on it. I don't want to have something that I don't know what is inside of it. That's the
Yeah,
wrong.
like when it comes to like upholstered stuff, it's sort of a grab bag, but
Exactly. So that's why,
tables, hardwood chairs,
yeah,
bookshelves. Like if I
right.
see a bookshelf at a thrift shop, I just buy it. Like that's a
Mhm.
weird impulse, but I'm like, I do have a lot of books. And much rather buy like a solid wood bookshelf than like, the particle board ones. I famously bought one at Shopko and assembled myself, and it literally like broke to
Oh,
pieces after I put the books in it. And the
right.
guy's like, oh, it's actually not rated for more than like 18 pounds or something. I'm like, how's it supposed to hold books? Are you kidding me?
Right.
It was like an 8-foot bookshelf, and it broke with books on it. So money
Terrible.
returned.
It's terrible. So yeah, so
Cheers to that.
let's bring back
Let's bring back
the
some good furniture, and like
good
furniture
classic
maybe like
furniture.
us poors can afford, because I'm not gonna I can't go to like the Amish whatever. There's
Right.
I don't think, I will admit, I don't know if I've actually bought any new furniture. I take that back. We did buy a couch from Target, the kind you have to snap together, because we needed something in the basement. But that was because it was
Oh,
COVID and it was literally like the only thing we could find. But
okay,
yeah, I
sure,
don't know if I've
sure.
ever bought new to me furniture, which sounds terrible because even my mattress came from my brother. So,
Right. So we went mattress shopping the other day because we were thinking, oh
and they're
yeah, we're gonna
stupid
treat ourselves.
expensive.
Yeah, they're super
How?
expensive and
Why?
they're uncomfortable.
No, they're terrible.
It is.
I mean,
So
not that I think it matters because I usually have a pug sleeping in my bed and a fat cat and then Dusty. So, like, you're not going to get comfortable anyway. Just get a shitty mattress and live your life.
right. So
We are
yeah,
never going to
so
get a mattress company to advertise in our podcast.
no.
I'm
Yeah,
okay
we
with that.
no purple, no Casper. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our mattress is fine. Like, trust me, the grind of existing and the stress of my life ensures that I sleep great because I just pass out so I can forget about the world.
Right.
I mean, I could sleep on the floor, it'd be fine.
Yeah, I
Old
can't.
mattress ain't my problem.
I need a I
Existential
need
drag.
a I need a new bed. My back is killing me.
I need a new drug.
I need a new drug. That's what it is. That's
Yeah, Huey
I
Lewis
need
the
a new
News.
duck.
Cue it up.
Yeah.
You can use that, right? That's
Right.
royalty free. I'll call up
Absolutely.
Huey. We'll get it happening.
It's on we're on Spotify.
There you
It's
go.
good.
Everyone just go listen to I Need a New Drug. It is a great song, and I love Huey Lewis the News.
Right. Or you can do the Weird Al version. I need a new duck.
Also solid. Maybe one of the like top 5 concerts was seeing Weird Al in concert.
You say that. I
Oh, it was
unfortunately
fantastic.
it was the
I was
opposite for
sober,
me.
so
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so last story. I even wore my shirt for it. So I'm repping
We
for
hate
the We
movies.
Hate Movies
Oh
podcast.
yeah.
I have listened to We Hate Movies for like, God, probably almost 15 years now. Okay, maybe
Mhm.
not 15 years, at least 10 years. It's one of my favorite bad movie podcasts. And I learned about this from their podcast because they were talking about the 1956 film classic, The Conqueror.
The
Now,
Conqueror.
you may
Okay.
wonder, what is The Conqueror?
What
It's a
is The
horrible
Conqueror?
movie. It stars John Wayne and Susan Hayward. It's a Howard Hughes film.
Oh.
And this is the best part. It stars John Wayne as Genghis Khan. That's right.
Yes.
They did it. So if you want to see the Duke pretend to be
Oh my.
Mongolian.
Mongolian.
Yeah. It's about as bad as it sounds. I have actually not seen it. I've watched
Wow.
excerpts. That's the closest I've got. It is listed in the book of 50 worst movies of all time.
Yeah.
Yes, it's awful in every way possible. Like, we can't even touch this with a 10-foot pole and pretend like anybody had anything good to do with this. It was the 50s, so whatever. But the thing that I think makes it interesting, aside from the Duke playing Genghis, it actually is
Genghis
pronounced
Khan.
Genghis Khan, as I was
Genghis,
corrected.
good.
Genghis Khan. If you listen to Hardcore History, which you should, they have a fantastic 3-part episode about Genghis Khan. Huh. You never thought Mongolian history was interesting? You're wrong. But check it out. So the movie was like apparently a respectable box office hit, a critical flop. But the thing that I thought was interesting, so they shot the movie in on site in St. George, Utah. You know, they wanted to have this desert feel, desolate feel, lots of horses, lots of beautiful sweeping landscapes. So the thing to remember is that this location is downwind from the area where they used to do nuclear testing.
Oh, good.
So in 1953, they did 11 above ground nuclear weapons tests, like just up the hill from this place that they were shooting. And if that doesn't make it worse, for the reshoots, they actually shipped in the dirt from location to the studio.
Sure, why not?
So, of the 220 film crew members, 91 of them developed cancer.
Oh, wow.
And 46 of them died from it.
Didn't the Duke die from cancer too?
So here's the thing. John Wayne, famously died from cancer. And he died from what?
Wasn't it throat? No.
That was throat or lung cancer. But
yeah,
basically, the running theory, and they mentioned this in the podcast, was that this movie killed the Duke. Like,
he killed the Duke.
He is one of the people that was exposed to so much radiation in that Utah desert that it probably is the reason he got cancer and died, which is horrific. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. What was it said? Since the primary cast and crew statistically, the odds of developing cancer from people at 43%. So like they like way outweighed the number of like the average people who die from cancer from this. So like there's very little doubt that like this movie probably killed the Duke.
Right. Oh gosh. Wow.
What a terrible note to go out on, because whew. Why did somebody decide we need this movie?
It's just a time of bad
111 minutes.
What?
111 minutes.
Oh, I thought you said under 11 minutes. I'm like, what in the hell? 111 minutes. Well, I don't know.
I like how generous Wikipedia is by saying Wayne, who was at the height of his career, had lobbied for the role after reading the script and was widely believed to have been grossly miscast.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. Yeah, that's our appropriation. That all kind of just goes in with the rant that we went on earlier. The cultural appropriation and not realizing what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah. Somebody thought this was and as a screenwriter, I'm just like, oh boy.
Right.
Even then again, more so, like, what a mixed bag.
I mean, still blackface happened at that time.
And even now, I mean, people are always I see things on Twitter where it's like, hey, we're gonna have this like even recently it's a high profile story about a Mexican American, and they're just like, oh, we got some old white dude directing it. Cool.
Yeah.
But better get a white American actress to play the lead. Like,
right.
Yeah, it's something we're obviously still working through.
Yep, indeed.
That's my kind way of saying, like, figure your shit out.
Figure it out.
This is a rant because I know my sister-in-law does not listen to this show, but she was telling me that like movies need to stop glamorizing LGBTQ people and minorities. I was like, what do you mean glamorizing? She's like, well, they're always in all these movies and stuff. Like, that's because they exist and they have stories and that they should be told. Like, that's not glamorizing. And I know you, but like, there's a lot of LGBT stories that are not glamorous because it talks about how horrible people treat them and how society has discriminated against them. So I don't know if that's glamour, but yeah, but it's not glamour. It's attention. They get all the attention. It's not a movie, so it must be glamour. That's maybe I'm just missing it. Mm.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And we're salty tonight.
Yes.
I
Yes.
blame the PBR.
I
I only had one though, so that
I
doesn't
don't
really
have
make
that.
for a good excuse.
I drank almost a gallon of water today. That's how far I got. So
I
that's
love your dedication to getting like the water cooler sized jug. Nice work.
it's exactly what it was. However, it does have a handle, so I can hold on to it. So
Now you gotta do like the CrossFit thing where they put the time of the day where you're supposed to be drinking, so you're staying on top of your hydration. I want a coffee mug that size.
Yeah, someone told me, to be able to put different, there's different lines on here, so I can say I'm supposed to be done at this time by this time,
Ooh,
or
and
this
you can
much by
make it
this
to your like,
time.
oh, I'm almost at the point where I have no will to live. Better keep drinking.
Right. Have another quick drink.
The saltiness.
Oh, all right. Well, hey, we do have that's our show.
Yeah, that's our show, but we have an
We got
exciting
through it.
one coming up next. Very
Well,
different with a guest.
Let's go with it 1 second. 1 second before we do
Steal the
that.
thunder.
Yes. Just
Sorry.
wait 1 second. We'll talk about that. But no, what I was going to say is that we actually had someone communicate with us.
Someone talked to us.
Someone
Yay!
talked to us on Twitter. So I want to give a shout out to Pod Nation. So I follow a bunch of different podcasts, groups and everything. And so I was just striking up a conversation. And so I asked, I said, so what are you getting into? And this is kind of how the conversation went. It says, as in shows that I'm currently watching. I'm like, you can talk about shows or what else, I just kind of wanted to, see, that's what our podcast is about, is asking what you're getting into. And so they said, let's see, traveling. So this person went from Texas back to California. So having to have that trip. Yep, I understand that. It's like, all this traveling, that's great. Hiking, remodeling their house, which they said painting sucks.
Yes, it does.
This is what so there was a couple of things that they were talking about, TV shows that they're watching. And first one is Dave. Have you seen Dave yet?
No.
Dave is on FX. And do you remember the guy, the rapper Lil Dicky, that came out a while ago?
Yeah.
You talk about how small his penis is and everything. Well, he's got a TV show on FX. It just came out with the second season. And so I've been watching that. And so is this person from Pod Nation. Also, they're watching Kevin Can Fuck Himself.
I've heard good things.
I've heard good things, but I haven't gotten into it. So I'm looking forward to trying to do that one. That's one probably not for the kids.
Wise.
And they're also watching Naruto Shippuden. Is that how it is? It's anime. Naruto?
Yeah.
Nailed it. Shippuden? Sure.
Djibouti?
Shibuti. And so watching movies in the theater again, something he's getting into. I agree, that would be great. I haven't done it yet, but and it says Olympics is awesome, but I haven't watched as much as I would like. So I responded saying, hey, that's great that you're getting into these things, but it seems kind of trivial. I mean, is there anything else in there? Just trying to get, kind of the meat.
Kind of digging.
Yeah. So they said, I wasn't sure what to include, but traveling has been the most interesting. Texas, seeing the Alamo, New Mexico, the Roswell Museum, Arizona, the Grand Canyon. Great things to be able to see as you're traveling. Hiking also both challenging and exciting. Hike Half Dome a couple of years ago, which I don't know where that's at, but that definitely sounds exciting. And it said took 13 hours to be able to hike Half Dome. So that's dedication. And then it says they also play D&D with podcasters from around the world.
Sweet.
So I thought that was great, as well as
a segue.
A great segue.
I knew you had a plan. I don't know why I doubted you.
Yeah. There's always a method to
wheels are turning in here, baby. Yeah.
So the segue is, go ahead. You can give the news since
Yeah,
I
so
I
we are
stole
going
it
to
from
do
you
an
earlier.
interview in our next episode, and we're really excited. It's the owner of Game Chest, which is a local gaming uh, business here in town. So they sell games, they host, they have like gaming rooms so people can come there and game. They do board games. They also support local artists and just have nerdy fun stuff. And yeah, they're a great community partner and an awesome business. And we thought after our last episode talking about getting into board games and role-playing games that it would be a natural place to kind of schedule that.
Yeah. And so, like I said on the show, Amanda, it is a family friend, and I couldn't remember how. So it's just like I know that she knows our family really well, but couldn't remember. My wife used to work with her, so
Oh, cool.
she's a sign language interpreter too, on top of all of this other stuff. So
Nice.
so I figured it'd be great to be able to chat with her about how to get started with role playing stuff, and then we can always just chat,
Nerd out.
nerd out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it might be kind of fun. Maybe we'll have to, like in advance, maybe we'll have to ask people if they want to tell us about what kind of role playing or board games they've gotten into in the last year, because it really feels like we're in like the renaissance of tabletop role playing games and board games. There's so many out there. There's a ton I want to play. So yeah, it'd be cool to hear people hit up and tell us what you're playing.
Right. And it's going to be, we're going to be doing that recording after this is released.
Yeah.
So yeah, so people will actually be able to hear this.
Yeah.
But we'll,
Woo.
we'll be putting stuff on Twitter. Again, if you are not a part of our Twitter feed, it is IC Get Into This. The I is in I, the C is in could. IC Get Into This. Yep. So so yeah, so you can follow us on Twitter. We always have different things out there. Like I said, we're trying to be active wherever we can, just to find out what people are getting into. There's some weird and crazy shit out there, and I want to get into it. I
Yeah,
want
we are
to
all
find
about
out.
it.
Absolutely. The crazier, the more awkward, the better. That's
And we kind
that's
of like awkward. It's sort of our thing.
it's gotten to be our niche. Yeah, absolutely. Or
Oh,
Nietzsche. That's
that is how
right.
you say it, right? Yeah, that
Yeah, I
sounds
think
right.
so. I
Sounds
think
right.
so. Yeah. Well, with that
Nailed it.
said,
Yeah.
nailed it.
Yes.
Um, all right. Yeah, we don't got anything else. I don't know what
Yeah.
when we meet next time. Yeah, we won't have the premiere yet,
No, that'll
but
be end of the month.
that's the end of the month. So if you're in the Sioux Falls area and if you donated to Valentine Crush, then
You're
you
a
can
hero.
go and see it. And then, last thing I wanted to mention is that Halogi's got his
Oh
hot
yeah.
sauce on
Yeah.
for sale online.
Yes, including, and I think it's still in stock, the caramel apple one we kind of talked about. So
Yes,
I need to get my order in because I'm really excited to try that one.
the Iden apples. Idun
Yeah.
apples. I don't.
You just gotta say it wrong. It's the only way to
Right.
be right.
I that's the only way I'm going to find out. So Nick's going to send me a message saying it's Idun or whatever.
Yeah, he's gonna send you like a little video that's him phonetically saying it, just like, oh, it's actually like Loki's balls.
That's what it's going to have to be. That's
Please
one of
don't
the
sue
next.
us, Disney.
That's one of the next ones. Loki's balls. I could get into this podcast.
I can get into Loki's balls. Just
Yeah, I could get into
as
Loki's
a hot
balls.
sauce. A freebie for you, Nick.
Oh shoot. So
All right. Well, until next time, unless you've got something else.
I don't know.
All right.
Bye.
Well,
Have a
take
good
care,
one.
and we'll catch you next time.
Nailed the ending. Yes.
We're so good at this.
We're awesome.
All right. Bye.
Bye.